I wish that I would have had just someone who really was who was there and had gone through that experience. And I really think this is where Hand to Hold has shown over those years in the early days, way back when we first started. The mentoring relationships were always pretty critical of just having someone there to listen to you, bring you a cup of coffee, and maybe sit in the surgery waiting room with you. And you don't have to say anything. You just have to sit there and just be, and just be with the person. So um, get you a community of men, be open to receiving help and support, embrace the chaos, and just know that some things aren't going to get done, and that's okay.
This is NICU Babies Parent Support with Kathryn Whitaker, a podcast from Hand to Hold, a national nonprofit that provides free personalized support, resources, and community before, during, and after a NICU stay. My conversations here focus on education and personal stories with medical and hospital professionals, counselors, therapists, and NICU moms and dads from across the country. Whether you're preparing for a NICU stay, you're currently there, or you're months and years past your stay, you belong here. The NICU is hard. We're here to help. I'm your host, Kathryn Whitaker, the mom of 6 children, including my very own NICU baby, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the official kickoff of the podcast. I know that last time you heard me talk about why we're doing this season, but today, I will say this in our interview, but it is my most favorite guest. I mean, how could he not be? He's the guy that has helped me with all these babies. We have done life together. He is my husband of almost 30 years, and he's an amazing man. He's an amazing dad, and we have been through our fair share of hard and holy things as a family and as a couple, but I couldn't think of a more perfect person to kick it off. I mentioned in our interview, and I feel like it's important to say it in this intro, is that this podcast season was really born because of another guest who told me that I should interview my husband. And I said, "Oh, I've talked to him." And she said, "No, you should interview him on the podcast." And thus this season was born. We haven't given a lot of voice to NICU dads, and I feel like this was the season that we needed to do it. My husband is incredibly gracious and kind, and he is always answering my questions when I ask. He is always happy to come on the podcast. But there are not too many dads of many children around that I've had the honor of interviewing, and Scott being one of them. So we have 6 children, and at the time that our NICU baby was born, we had 5 children under the age of 8, which feels like a lot. It was a lot. We now have 6 children. We had 1 baby after our NICU baby, but I wanted him to speak into what is it like to be the father of many and to have some of those children at home while you also have a NICU baby. So I hope that whether you have 1 child at home or multiple children at home, that you'll get a glimpse into what does that balance look like when you have a wife in the hospital, a baby in the hospital, kids at home, and a job, and all the other obligations that you have as a husband and as someone in the workforce. So I felt like he could really accurately speak into that. So we're going to do it. We're going to kick it off with him, and I'm so honored. So Scott Whitaker. Sometimes I refer to him as Mr. Whitaker, but Scott is our guest today. He's a Texas native. He's the dad of 6 children, young adult, and married to elementary school. And he's been married to me for almost 30 years. He's put up for me for almost 30 years. He's the director of stewardship and development for the Catholic Diocese of Austin, and he previously served as president of the Hand to Hold board. On social media, he shares his honest take on family life and marriage, all while eating barbecue, cheering on the Texas Aggies, and hiking national parks. So without further ado, let's get to my very first dad interview of the season. Well, if it isn't my favorite guest on the podcast, I was just saying in the intro that I have a lot of favorite guests, but you are at the tip top of that list because I think this is your 3rd time on the podcast. Is that right?
I don't know. I feel like I'm doing you a bunch of favors all the time, and I think,
Are you
and I'm glad that am your number 1 guest on the podcast.
are you worried about what I'm going to ask you?
Well, I'm hoping that I can kind of maybe prepare a little bit about what's going to go down today.
I can't give you too much because I want it to be authentically how you feel. So it's the dads. You're the very first episode. I mean, I did my intro episode a few weeks ago, but you're the very first dad. I felt like I need to start with you because it's all your fault. So I was talking to a guest, I think it was last season, maybe the season before, and after we got offline, we were chatting about just birth and trauma and all the things related to a NICU stay. And I said something about you. I said, yeah, the birth after our NICU baby, my husband was an amazing birth coach. I never knew that he had it in him. And we got to talking about it. And she said, you should talk to him. And I said, I mean, no, I haven't. She said, no, no, on the podcast. And it got me thinking maybe I should talk to you about the dad perspective because while we've talked about our shared experience, we have not talked about your specific experience. So I'm laying that out there as to prepare yourself. So I want to actually go all the way back to the day that Luke was born. So we went into the hospital. I thought that I was going to be able to deliver just vaginally, normal, just like all of our other children. And then the heart rate started dipping. The OB got concerned and she's like, yeah, now we're in emergency C-section kind of mode. And I had a friend there who'd had a bunch of C-sections. So she was amazing for me. But I never, honestly, I don't know what happened. They wheeled me out. And I think I remember you saying, you got this, babe. I love you. And then the next thing I knew, I was in the OR and a few minutes later you came in. So what happened to you? Like, where did you go? What did you do? What were you thinking through all of that?
See, this would have been good to give me a little prep because that was 16 years ago, and I'm going to have to dig deep in the brain here to remember that. But it's kind of a weird thing, but this is what I remember. I remember that you were taken into the OR, and I was taken into another room, and I put on my scrubs, and obviously for us with the four other older children, that was not the experience. It was certainly there in the labor and delivery room. Um, but I don't know why I remembered that. That just kind of came out of my mind all of a sudden, just kind of the question that you asked. And so I kind of went into this room and I started putting on the scrubs and kind of getting dressed. It was just this really weird experience. Like I don't know what's going on. My wife is over here. My wife is now in this other room, and I'm trying to get ready. And the nurses were like, "No problem. It's gonna be fine." And then eventually made it into the OR. You were already prepped, and then it went really fast after that. It actually was a very uh, fast moving experience. And then Luke was born. And I remember, even with all of our other kids, uh, this was the thing that I really focused in on, which is the doctors are there for you and they're going to provide for you. I need to go with our children and be with our children. And so that was kind of where my mind went. And I obviously started following Luke and started being with him as much as I could and kind of following what they were doing and how he was being taken out and so forth. So that's about as good of a memory as I can think about on that particular day and during that
Did they
moment.
did
But
they tell you anything like what to expect when you went into the OR? Or were they like, oh, this guy, he's done this birth thing before, he knows what he's doing? Did they assume that? Did you get any prep? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. Uh,
Okay.
I think it went so fast and everything was moving pretty
It
quickly.
was fast.
And I just remember that it was one of the most incredible, fast moving experiences. I mean, it felt like seconds, maybe minutes, and it probably was a few minutes from getting you from a labor and delivery room over to the OR, then me and my scrubs, and I was in there, and then literally Luke was with us, and so it went very fast.
Yeah, I think they had given me the epidural because we were thinking that I was going to be able to deliver. So I was already numbed up and like ready to roll, as they say. And they had us, I do remember they had us in the room close to the OR in case something, because we knew going into it that it was going to be, I was already a high risk pregnancy. But the C-section, I remember feeling incredibly stressed out about. And I was
Yeah.
shaking, and I remember the
Mhm.
anesthesiologist put his hand on my head, and he was like, "You're gonna be okay." And I remember being really grateful that he was there, and then as soon as his hand was away, you were right next to me. So, biggest fear that day? I mean, we had a lot of unknowns with Luke. We didn't really know what we were gonna get. What were you most
Mhm.
worried about when it came to him or when it came to me, or just the experience in general?
Yeah. I would kind of venture to I would recall perhaps that I was honestly less worried about you in that situation. I knew that you're super strong. You always get through things really, really well. I think that the doctors were great. We knew them. This was something that we had kind of planned for, not necessarily a C-section, but we we did have the ability for us to kind of you know move up or ramp up to the time that Luke was being born. We didn't exactly know what was going to happen. Unlike I think a lot of other people and some of their own NICU experiences, which I think are very fast and very traumatic. Uh, Not that ours was less traumatic by
Still
any
traumatic, but
stretch,
the timing was different.
but the timing was different. There was a little bit. We had the I think the blessing to have a little bit of a ramping up period, a preparation period that we knew something was going to happen. We knew that Luke was not growing in the womb. We had those experiences that led to that. So I really wasn't worried as much about you because I really felt the doctors were great, the nurses, all of those things seemed to be, and C sections happen all the time, and I think that that wasn't the case for me. Um, but after Luke was born, I think it was that's when really things started kind of picking up the pace a little bit, and he was obviously much smaller. We didn't really know the extent of what he was going to experience in the NICU, and frankly, I think you and I both kind of thought that, oh, he's going to be born. We're going to go to the NICU for a few days. We're going to let him kind of get used to nursing or feeding, and then we're kind of blow this joint, and we're gonna be okay. But
We were so
uh,
dumb. We were
it
so
ended up
naive.
not being that case at all. But I wasn't worried as much about you. I think there was really good doctors and nurses, and I felt that they were really working with you. And but I think the trauma probably of that, and it's probably still being processed still to this day in my mind of kind of what happened, and really thinking about that day and trying to recall what happened. That's big because I think you kind of put that into some sort of compartment in your brain, and you just kind of leave it there
Yeah.
hoping that you may not have to ever open that up ever again, perhaps. But anyway, and then I remember just kind of being with Luke as much as I could and trying to kind of stay with him, and that's kind of where I was with our other kids. So that's what I went into dad
You were
mode and
you were cute.
was
I
there.
remember you asking me, "Do you want me to stay here with you or do you want me to go with Luke?" And all of us, I remember the nurses and I were all like, "Go with the baby."
Hmm. Yeah.
And not that I don't think that you were necessarily maybe you were conflicted, but I think maybe you just needed some affirmation, but literally everyone in the delivery room was like, "You're going with the baby, dad."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and then you came back in when I was in recovery and I remember you were so great. You were like, "This is what he's doing," and incredibly encouraging to like I think whether you were lying to me or not, you knew that I needed to hear that everything was okay because I was I really had a brutal recovery, at least the first few days. So as
So, and
we
I think that was the case. Maybe this is where you're going, but I think that was the massive difference with the other four children
yes.
that you were in the labor and delivery, you were there, they were there with you, you were holding them immediately, you were with them, and this was a significant shift in difference and the way that you had experienced childbirth. And I don't think that you can speak to this enough that the traumatic experiences that occur where you miss that initial bonding and you don't have that ability to be there. And then on top of that, you had a C-section, which actually kept you really it kept you in the bed. You weren't able to do a lot of the same things you were physically. So I think that's where, for me, and I've always been a great, I think, caretaker. I try to be good. I try to be positive. I'm Mr. Positivity. We all know that. Sometimes you don't like my Mr. Positivity. Um, but that's what I think I felt like I had to get into that mode with you to say, okay, I'm keeping an eye on Luke. I know what's going on. I'm getting those updates, but I'm also married to you and you are my wife. And I am as nervous now about what your experience is going to be. I do think it shifted from I had less worry in the OR during the C-section, but once you were back in the room and I started to notice that your physical limitations, this was a really big deal. And I think maybe for dads who may be listening to this, that this is your opportunity to kind of rise to the occasion. This is your opportunity to really be that bridge between your baby and your significant other, of kind of making sure that both are taken care of in that situation. It's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of work to do that. But I think it's a great opportunity for a dad to kind of step into that role and do it well.
Okay, so let's talk about that pressure because not only did you have me really struggling in recovery, I remember you were helping me pump even like I couldn't even do it. It was awful. I'm not going to go back to that day with me because it was terrible. We'll just say that. But we also had four children under the age of 8 at home. And then we had Luke and oh yeah, you also have a full-time job. So how did you do that, babe?
Hmm. I honestly don't know. Uh, it's one of those things when you look back and you reflect on that time period. I think for us, we are people of great faith, and so I think that our faith obviously was so important to who we are, our community, people that we have in our life, and I think that that obviously was a big thing for us. So that was super helpful. Um, the second thing is that I think you just keep going forward. Just like in Finding Nemo, you just keep swimming and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you know that you're going to have good days and bad days. And frankly, as we all know, and many of us who've had these experiences in NICU, you're probably going to have more bad days than good,
Yeah.
and certainly in the beginning. And so I think you just keep persevering, you keep pushing forward. And then I think the last thing that I would probably say is uh, we were really blessed with a great community of people that were helpful for us. And I think that's something that is not lost on me. And that's how we were able to get through a lot of things. We had friends that were picking up kids or bringing food, or uh, friends that helped you out that had an experience that you didn't have in a C-section.
They were
So I
buying me
think that
underwear.
was
Yeah. I mean,
so that thing was very important as well. So that was very important. But
yeah.
at the same time, I know that a lot of people don't have those resources. A lot of people don't have those that community. They don't have the ability to do that, and so that was really, really difficult. And I know we had the resources, but I still found it very difficult. I cannot imagine what it's like for those who maybe they don't have the community and the resources. It's going to be way more difficult for them.
So when people started offering help, I mean, as the man, at least I can only speak to our relationship, you're very much a protector of our family. And we tend to be like, we can do this by ourselves. And then when things started to spiral and we realized that we could not in fact do this by ourselves, how did you react as the man in the relationship when people were offering help and you weren't able to provide everything that our family needed?
Yeah, I think as a man, you have to dig deep and put your pride aside. Um, that there are other people in this world. There are great, loving, kind, generous people in this world who recognize that you're in a situation that is really difficult, and you have to be able to say yes to that help. And I think that's probably one of the most difficult things for a man to do. Certainly, one who really aspires to provide for their family, take care of their family, and again, kind of back what I said earlier, you're definitely in this mode of making sure that you're taking care of your baby and taking care of your wife. And so, I think that is a big deal. It's really difficult, but got to put everything aside, and you've got to say yes to the help. When people say, "Hey, what can I do to help?" or "What is it that you need?" It's almost like you need to have a top 10 list at the ready. You need to
That's
say,
good.
"Hey, listen, I need to have someone pick up my kids from school. We're really struggling right now, and I just need money." Or, "Hey, I'm really struggling with getting some food, and I've got to be at my work hear and those things. So I think sometimes you don't have the ability to be prepared and kind of have that. But if you are going to, and you know you have that, have a top 5 list or a top 10 list, and say, these are things that I need. Can you help me with it? And when someone says that, you're able to respond, because otherwise people, they will say things all the time about, can I help you? But if you're not willing to accept the help or give them something to do or a task to do or a responsibility, they're going to go on about their daily life because they're not in your
Yeah.
moment with you. They may understand some things, they may kind of know, but they don't really know what it's like and what you're going through. Now, other people that have gone through a NICU experience, they do. They get the pass. Uh, but the general population has no idea what you're going through. So you have to help them to navigate that too, to be able to say yes and to get the help that you need.
Yeah, my favorite was when people were like, "Let us know if you need anything." I was like, "Clearly, we need something. We
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
always know what it is. Sometimes we do. We don't always know what it is." I did appreciate when people would say, do you want me to go to the grocery store or do you want me to bring you a meal? Like when they would give us a couple of options, or would this be helpful if I did this? That way it felt less like I had to come up with the thing, but then when they came up with an idea, I was like, actually, yes, that would be helpful if you did that. So that's a good
Hmm.
reminder.
Hmm.
We have not been shy about sharing that we went to counseling. So when Luke was 8 months old, we were getting ready to go into, I think at that point it was his fifth surgery. And we both came to sort of a crossroads that we were like, things are really bad and they're imploding and we need some help. How did counseling make you feel as the I know how it made me feel as a woman, and I know how beneficial it was for me, and I was like all in, I was ready to do it. I didn't feel ashamed, but I want to know from your perspective, from the male perspective, what it felt like when we had that initial conversation about maybe we should go to counseling, and then what it felt like to actually step into that space. This podcast is produced by Hand to Hold, a national nonprofit, but we're more than simply a podcast. Be sure to download our app in the App Store or Google Play, or visit our website to discover all the ways that we can support you as a NICU parent. Join one of our support groups, sign up for counseling, find loss and bereavement support, request a peer mentor, or check out our educational resources and family stories. And all of that is at no cost to you.
I think for us, we joke about it a little bit, but it's partially true in that we're both very competitive. And for us, it was, how do we beat the odds? The odds were not very good for people who have special needs children. The odds were not very good for marriages that experience certain traumas. And for us, that was just the issue that we really wanted to do, is to make sure that we beat the odds, and so that's kind of where I think I started, is from a competition standpoint. But I'm probably unlike a lot of dads or men in the world, is that I actually was very open to it. I felt like this was something that was important for us to do. Um, we're both very outgoing and very type A and extroverts. I think that we process a lot of things out loud,
Much
sometimes
to
to
your
our
detriment. You're like, my wife's processed too many things.
much to our detriment. But I think that we were both open to it, and I think that was very helpful to us. Um, there might have been a day or two. It's hard to really go back and really remember exactly the emotion at the time, but I'm sure that I was probably a couple of times that we went, I was like, okay, all right, we've talked about it, we're good now, right? So I'm sure that was the case. I'm not going to try to say that I did not. I was like, oh, it was great, I went every single time, it was wonderful. But overall, I think it was really good, and I think it was very important. And I think that, again, for men, for dads, is to kind of open up about this, be willing to accept this, be willing to accept the help. um, it's hard to work your way through it on your own, and it's hard to pray your way through these things on your own. And so there are professionals that are here to help us and to guide us and to make things better. And our children deserve the best. Our children deserve two parents that, if at all possible, that can be there. And so that's very important. And I enjoyed it. Overall, that was a good experience. We talk about this a lot and we say we need other people to do this. You need to go do this. We're not shy about it.
Yeah, no, it definitely changed the trajectory of our marriage in all the best of ways. It was really painful to go through it, but we reaped the benefits later on, especially as, oh, get yourself some young adults and teenagers. And that's when I feel like we really employed many of the things that we used in counseling,
Hmm.
still use them today, as a matter of fact. Okay, so I want to fast forward to the baby after the NICU stay. So Gianna came along about 4.5 years after our NICU stay. That was a lot of knee time that we thought about, do we want to do this again? And we got a lot of affirmation from a lot of specialists, maybe not as much affirmation from some family and a few friends, but between us we were like, we're ready to do this again. And then I was like, hey, so since I have done vaginal birth with epidural and I've done a C-section with drugs, why not just not do any of those things and then just do it with no drugs? And what did you think when I told you that I wanted to labor with no drugs at a hospital with baby number 6?
Good luck. I I said it's not me. Uh, no, I probably said that because I like to joke with you a little bit, but no, I think this was a I think it's a personal choice that you make. I'm obviously going to be there for you. I wanted to be there for you. I wanted to support you in whatever choice that you wanted to make. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the men are we're there as a supportive support person for you. We're there to hold your hand, to guide you, to encourage you, to be positive, to support you. But we are not physically delivering a baby. We do not go through the physical demands, the emotional toll that it takes on you, the the one delivering the baby. Um, so obviously, I was like, okay, all right, can we do this? We're
Did
going to
you
do
think I would
this?
did you
Okay,
think I would actually do it? Did you think I would bail on it?
not at all.
No?
Not at
Okay.
all. No, no.
Okay.
You're definitely. Oh, come on, Kathryn. Uh, Anyone that's been listening to this podcast for any number of years knows that once you are in, you are committed, and you're going to do it. And so I think that I didn't think that you were going to bail on this. You had it in your mind. The only way you're going to bail on it is if your doctor looked at you and said, "Okay, we're going to rethink this, or we're gonna do something different here." But no, you're absolutely committed to this. You wanted to make sure that it happened. So no doubt about it.
I remember there was a point, I want to say it was about 6 centimeters. I think the nurse had told me, she said, oh, all you moms of big families are all the same. You get to um, 6 or 7 centimeters, and then a contraction later, it's a fire alarm, and we're ready to deliver a baby. So she's like, you'll be fine. So she was super encouraging in all the best of ways. I think she'd been a doula before, and then she became a labor and delivery nurse. But I think there was a point, I think I was at 6 centimeters, and I looked at you and I was like, I can't do it. Like the pain was unlike anything that I had ever felt. And I just remember thinking, I am making no progress. And like, I'm not closer to delivery. And you were amazing. Where did that come from? Like, how did you do that, Mr. Whitaker?
Again, I'm not very helpful today on the podcast. I can't give you exactly why it happened or why I was that way. I don't know. I'm maybe I'm wired that way a little bit. I'm wired to be supportive and to be helpful. And again, I'm positive about so many things in life, and I try to be positive. And I guess the only thing that I might say is that um, I'm there. I'm watching you go through the birthing process. And there's always a couple of things. I think that most men, dads will relate to this a little bit. We look at that and go, oh my gosh, one, I'm glad that is not me. So that's one thing. But the second thing is that, okay, I'm past the part that it's not me, but it is my wife. It is someone that I love significantly. And I've got to help her get through this in whatever way that I can. Can't take the pain away. I can't take the process away, but I can hold her hand. I can be encouraging. I can remind her, and I think I did. I think that reminds you of how strong you are and how you can overcome so many things. And so I think that's something that is very important is that to be a positive encourager and to remind people, remind your wife that you can do this. You can do hard things. You've done hard things before, and you can get through this. Now, the best part about it was this was number 6 for us. So um, we kind of experienced a little bit of everything up to this point. So um, you can't beat experience in life. And so when you're doing that with your first child and that first experience maybe becomes a NICU experience or there's a traumatic experience with the birth, that's incredibly difficult. When you have number 6, not that it's easier or not that all things are better and it's just kind of we're sugarcoating everything, but you had experience and you were able to walk through things and able to deal with matters and adjust on things way better than you would have 2, 3, 4 kids ago. So that was a real blessing for us. But at the same time, be positive, be encouraging, remind your wife that that she can do hard things and that you'll get through this like everything else that we do, and we'll do it together.
I do remember that we were the talk of the hallway, one, because they did have us right next to the OR just in case, but I was like, "I'm not laboring in a gown, I'm gonna wear my clothes." Like, I guess when you're the mom of 6, sometimes your life is like, "I'm calling the shots this time," and, of course, we didn't know the sex of the baby, and so, like, all the nurses were like a little covey of quails all around trying to figure out, but, you were amazing. You also made me cry. I was like, "Well, I'm glad you kept talking because I needed to pull myself together." Um I wanna know, how do you think becoming a NICU dad, babe, how do you think that changed you?
Oh goodness. Obviously, it changed. It changed me. It changed everything. And going back to the earlier question about how did we do it? I mean, there was obviously the trauma in the very beginning was very difficult. Um, but then you kind of get into a routine, and not every NICU experience is like that. I recognize that, but whether it's a 2 week stay or a 6 month stay, but you do get into a sort of routine where you go visit your baby. At the time, certain times during the day. You get up, you go to the hospital, I go to work, I go to the hospital after work, you go home and take a shower. So you get into this kind of routine, and I'm not necessarily saying that that's bad or good, but thankfully you get into some sort of routine, and I think that that changes you because you obviously have to make sure that and in our case we had 4 other kids at home and you've got a lot of moving parts. And so I think that that's really where the change really happens. And certainly for if you're in a situation like us where I was the one that worked outside the home, I had to make sure that I had to go to work because I didn't have enough time off to do that. And then I've got to make sure that the kids are still at the different places. And were spending time with Luke at the hospital. And so that was a massive shift in the way that we operated a family. So it changes you just from a physical standpoint. It changes you from a obviously an emotional standpoint of I don't know what today is going to bring. I don't know if I don't know if Luke's going to make it today, and those are real uh, traumatic, trying experiences in your life, and it absolutely changes you, and it changes you in good and bad ways. Um, but it's definitely something that is way different and nothing like you've ever experienced in your life.
I think there was a moment, because if people don't know you, I mean, I know you really well. People listening may not know you as well. You are incredibly even keel. Like, very few things ruffle you. Even when you watch sporting events, when the Texas A&M Aggies are playing, like, you're fairly balanced in life. Like, you take things in, you absorb them. You're not one to be super reactionary. And there was one moment when we were in the second NICU. So Luke had been transported. He had stopped breathing. We had to resuscitate him, and he was in a new NICU, a more critical NICU in downtown Austin. And there was a moment that we had to decide if we were going to send him to surgery. It was potentially life saving. It was a lot. It was a life altering decision for our family. And I remember looking at you, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. And you looked at me and it was like I finally saw like a little bit of the exterior crack a little bit, and I saw like deep into the heart. But I remember you were like, "Kathryn, we don't have any other choices. We're going to trust that we're going to get him back." And I remember thinking really loved in that moment because you were feeling the same thing I was feeling, and I think all along you did, but I finally got to see how you felt, and you weren't afraid to be really vulnerable and really honest. That was to me, that feels like the most defining moment of our relationship and the most defining moment of our family because of the way that you reacted and how you loved our family in that moment. What were you thinking?
Yeah.
I
Thank
know
you.
you know that
Thank you.
moment.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't know if you have any way to say that with a NICU experience and any of the multiple types of NICU experiences. But for me, I guess that I feel really, I guess, called to be this way and to be able to trust in the good of a lot of people. And in our case, you obviously, for those of us who experience a NICU or where there's a surgical experience, you don't have any other choices. You have to trust the doctors. Um, we're people of faith. We have to trust God, and whatever that will happens to be, will be. And so, for me, that's something that I've always tried to do is try to remain as calm as I can. It's not always the case. Thank you for saying that about Aggie football, but I don't know if I'm as calm sometimes.
Well,
But
okay, maybe that's when I
yeah,
see the heart
yeah,
elevation go up.
yeah. Maybe that changes a little bit. But I think it's hard to really remember again what it was like at that particular moment. Uh, but you do have bits and pieces that kind of come back, and you recall some of those moments. And I almost remember those moments every time we're setting in the surgery waiting room, where
Yes.
you had to relive that same moment of, I don't know if we can do this. Well, we don't have any other choices. We have to do this, and you just repeat 7 times, 8 times, 9 times. It never got any easier by any stretch. But it's one of those things where you look back on and just go, I don't know how we did it. I don't know what happened. Um, it's all a blur sometimes, but we just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and that is, I think, what you have to do. And you have to be there for each other. You have to support each other. Um, you have to be kind to each other, and you have to go get help. You have to ask for help, and you have to receive help, and all of those things that go into that moment that you're kind of living into this NICU experience, and for whatever time period it may be.
Thank you for sharing that. I have been asking dads this question at the very end of the podcast this particular season because I love it when they give advice. So if there's a dad listening, particularly if there's a dad listening who has multiple children, lots of babies, what would your advice be to him if you could have, like, if there had been another NICU dad who was in a similar experience, who had a bunch of kids, what do you wish he had told you before you had started your NICU journey with Luke?
It's probably good advice for any large family or anyone who has a lot of kids, but embrace the chaos. Um, just know that there's going to be some homework assignments that don't get done. You might run to get fast food more than you really want to. Um, you might miss a bath time or two. It's hard. It's difficult, and it's chaotic, and it's messy, and you don't know what to do in a lot of cases. And you may be in a situation where maybe your job is you make a lot of decisions, and you can get things done, and you're organized and whatever. But in this case, it's just everything gets thrown out, and it's chaotic and it's messy. And I think just um, embrace that chaos and know that you will get through it, and it may not be the way that you get through it, and it may not end the way that you want it to end, but there will be a time, and it will be chaotic, and it will be messy, and embrace it, and lean on your friends. And maybe this is before, maybe the advice is now is get a group of guys now, lean on those men now before you have children, before you get married. I don't think that we build good manly relationships enough in this world today. And so I think leaning on that support system is good. So asking for help, inviting for help, receiving help is very good. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, I feel like, but I think those are a lot of things that
Those are good.
I wish that I would have had just someone who really was who was there and had gone through that experience. And I really think this is where Hand to Hold has shown over those years in the early days, way back when we first started. The mentoring relationships were always pretty critical of just having someone there to listen to you, bring you a cup of coffee, and maybe sit in the surgery waiting room with you, and you don't have to say anything. You just have to sit there and just be, and just be with the person. So um, get you a community of men, be open to receiving help and support, embrace the chaos, and just know that some things aren't going to get done, and that's okay.
You're still my favorite. You're my favorite guest ever. Thank you, babe,
It's good.
for humoring me and coming on the podcast. And I know that the things that you shared, there's going to be more than one man out there that listens to that who feels seen. So thanks. You're the best.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. There were a couple of minutes that I was like, I think I'm about to break. I think I can feel the dam brewing and the tears are going to come. I don't often go back to some of our hardest days. So, for those of you who are new to the podcast and you've never listened, Luke is our NICU baby and he was born early, obviously. He has endured 9 surgeries and about 18 different specialists and hundreds of hours of therapy. So, we have been through it with Luke. And I have not been through it alone. I've been through it with Scott. And there were many things that he shared, some of which I had only heard for the first time. I'm going to have to go back and re listen to it again. But one thing that stuck out to me in today's 2-minute take is that he affirmed, I think, our desire as people, but certainly as men listening, that it's important to develop a community of men that you can lean on even before the hard things happen, that we don't weather hard things alone. We can, but they are so much harder when we weather them alone. If we can weather them with people, then we somehow get out on the other side more whole, more ourselves. And I was really thankful that he mentioned the importance of developing strong male relationships in your life as a dad, and that they will sustain you on the really difficult days and they will rejoice with you on the really big and awesome days. So there's so much that he said. Give me a minute. There's so much that Mr. Whitaker said that deeply resonated with me as his wife, but I hope even more so that it resonated with you as a dad. If you're listening to this, I hope that you feel empowered and encouraged, and probably, maybe most importantly, that you're not alone. Sometimes you're the lost population of a NICU journey, and I don't want you to feel lost this particular season. We have so many dads that are going to be on the podcast. We have micro preemie dads. We have dads who are co-parenting with their ex-wife. We have NICU grandfathers. We have NICU baby cuddlers. We have a little bit of everything and anything in between. And I hope that somehow, also dads of multiples, but I hope that you get a chance to listen to every podcast episode, to share it with the man in your life. Make sure that you do that. You can give us a rating over on whatever platform that you listen to. You can certainly watch us over on YouTube, but just know how excited and how grateful we are that you're here. And hopefully you can share this with the man in your life. But don't go anywhere, because next time, this is what you're going to hear.
What does it look like for every scenario? Because there's a scenario that we um, bring a couple of the girls home, but not all of them. And there's a scenario that all the girls come home and Mercedes doesn't come home. And that's when I really didn't like to think about a lot, but Mercedes would bring it up because she would want to process it, but also, start talking about it like, what does the family look like if I'm not part of the family? You know? And man, I'm probably going to tear up a little bit even thinking about that. Was just so hard to talk about every time, and to think about, losing your partner, the love of your life during that, while also dealing with this overwhelming, amount of children to come into your life that, you don't know how to raise all of it. So thinking through that and thinking through what does it look like for all of these, and by the grace of God, we didn't have any complications during the pregnancy or the delivery.
Thanks, y'all, for listening. I have one quick ask. If you listened to today's episode and it helped you, inspired you, or encouraged you in any way, please subscribe, give us a rating, and then leave a review. It's how this podcast lands in the ears of other listeners, which means so much to podcasters like us. Our reach can be magnified because of you.